Kathar woke up screaming again. His 6 arms thrashed wildly as he fought against invisible enemies in his sleep. The medical bed groaned under his massive frame as his thick carapace scraped against the metal rails. Sweat dripped from the gaps in his natural armor, pooling on the sterile white sheets beneath him. The nightmare was always the same. Human soldiers with their soft pink skin and strange round eyes, moving through smoke and fire like deadly ghosts. Their crude metal weapons spitting death while they smiled with those terrifying white teeth. Even now, 3 months after the battle, Kathar could still hear their battle cries echoing in his mind. A gentle chime filled the medical bay as the automatic systems detected his distress. Within moments, Dr. Vexen entered the room, her blue-green scales shimmering under the artificial lights as she approached the bed. Unlike Cathar's warrior caste, she belonged to the healer class, with 4 arms instead of 6 and a more delicate build.
"The dreams again?"
she asked, her voice soft and melodic in the way of her people. Kathar nodded, unable to trust his voice. His mandibles clicked nervously as he tried to calm his racing hearts. The Zaphiran warrior looked nothing like the proud soldier who had once led elite strike teams across the galaxy. His once gleaming carapace was now dull and scarred, marked with ugly wounds that refused to heal properly. The worst damage was not visible to the eye. Dr. Vexen activated her datapad and settled into the chair beside his bed. She had been treating him since his evacuation from Kepler 442b, the planet the humans called New Haven. In all her years as a military psychiatrist, she had never seen a warrior so completely broken by combat experience.
"Tell me about the battle again," she said gently. "Start from the beginning."
Cathar's compound eyes fixed on the ceiling above. The metal surface reflected distorted images of the room, reminding him of the way human weapons had reflected sunlight during that terrible campaign. He began to speak, his voice rough and hesitant. "We were the best," he said. "The Crimson Talon Battalion, elite warriors who had conquered 17 star systems without losing a single battle. Our exoskeletons could deflect energy weapons. Our plasma rifles could melt through any known armor. We moved as one mind, sharing thoughts and tactics through our neural links." Dr. Vexen made notes on her pad, encouraging him to continue with gentle nods. "The humans were supposed to be easy prey," Kathar continued. "Command showed us images of their settlements, crude concrete buildings, primitive metal vehicles. They had no natural armor, no claws, no venom sacs, just soft flesh wrapped around fragile bones. Intelligence reports said they used chemical explosives and metal projectiles, ancient technology that should have been useless against our forces." The warrior paused, his breathing becoming labored as the memories pressed against his consciousness like a physical weight. Dr. Vexen waited patiently, knowing that pushing too hard would cause him to retreat back into silence. "General Takor briefed us personally before the mission," Kathar said. "He told us the humans have been expanding across their region of space for several decades. Their ships were slow and inefficient, but they had established colonies on dozens of worlds. The Empire needed those resources, and the humans were in the way." Kathar shifted on the bed, his movements stiff and painful. The injuries from the battle had healed poorly, leaving him with limited mobility in his left arms. More troubling were the phantom pains that struck without warning, reminders of wounds that existed only in his mind. "The plan was simple," he continued. 300 warriors would land on New Haven during their night cycle. We would eliminate the human defenders before dawn and secure the primary settlement. Follow-up forces would arrive to begin resource extraction. The entire operation was expected to take less than 1 planetary rotation. Dr. Vexen noticed the way Cathar's mandibles began clicking more rapidly as he spoke. It was a sign of increasing stress, a warning that he was approaching the edge of another breakdown. "We had studied 17 different species before the humans,"
Kathar said. The pattern was always the same. Initial resistance followed by surrender once they realized they were outmatched. The smart ones would negotiate terms. The proud ones would fight to the end. But they all fell eventually. The warrior's voice grew quieter, forcing Dr. Vexon to lean closer to hear him. The humans were different from the start, he whispered. When our dropships entered their atmosphere, we expected to see panic in their settlements, running figures, abandoned positions, the chaos that comes with facing superior force. Instead, we saw organized movement, vehicles moving to predetermined positions, lights being extinguished in patterns that suggested coordinated response. Kathar closed his compound eyes, but the images continued to play behind his lids. The memory of that first glimpse of human preparation still sent chills through his exoskeleton. Landing zones were supposed to be clear, he said. Intelligence had identified several flat areas near the settlement that would allow easy deployment. But as our ships descended, we saw that the humans had prepared surprises. Hidden weapons positions, camouflaged obstacles. They had been expecting us. Dr. Vexon made another note. The pattern was becoming clear. Every survivor from the New Haven campaign reported the same thing. The humans had somehow anticipated the Zaphiran attack and prepared accordingly.
My squad was assigned to the northern approach, Kathar continued. 15 warriors in full combat armor, equipped with heavy plasma weapons and shield generators. We had never failed to complete an objective, never lost a warrior to enemy action. We were confident. Perhaps overconfident. The warrior's voice began to strengthen as he recalled the pride and certainty of that moment. For a brief time, the nightmare receded, replaced by memories of better days. The dropship set us down exactly where planned, he said. The human settlements spread out before us in the darkness, simple buildings made of local stone and metal, narrow roads connecting different sections, defensive walls that looked like they had been built by children playing with blocks. Kathar paused, his expression growing troubled. But there was something wrong with the silence, he said. On other worlds, we could hear the sounds of panic as we approached, screaming, running footsteps, vehicles starting and stopping. New Haven was quiet. Too quiet, like the settlement was holding its breath. Dr. Vexon looked up from her notes, recognizing the significance of this detail. Zaphiran hearing was far superior to most species, capable of detecting sounds across a wide range of frequencies. If Kathar said the settlement was too quiet, it meant the humans had achieved an almost impossible level of noise discipline. Squad leader Vexthor ordered us to advance in standard formation, Kathar said. 3 warriors in front, 2 on each flank, the rest following in support. Our neural links allowed perfect coordination. Each warrior knew exactly where the others were at all times. It had never failed us before. The warrior's mandibles began clicking again as the memory reached the crucial moment. Dr. Vexon prepared herself for another breakdown, but Kathar surprised her by continuing in a steady voice. That was when we met our first human soldier, he said. A female, small even by their standards. She was crouched behind a pile of rubble, holding one of their primitive projectile weapons. She should have been terrified, should have run or surrendered when she saw us coming. Kathar looked directly at Dr. Vexon, his compound eyes reflecting the room's lights like facet gems. Instead, she smiled. Dr. Vexon noticed how Kathar's breathing changed when he mentioned the human female's smile. His 2 hearts began beating faster and his carapace started to darken with stress patterns. She had seen this reaction many times over the past months. Something about that first encounter had broken something fundamental in the warrior's mind. Tell me about her, Dr. Vexon said softly. The human female. What happened next? Kathar's mandibles clicked rapidly as he struggled to find words. His 6 arms moved restlessly, picking at the medical blankets with nervous energy. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. She was so small, he said, maybe half the height of a warrior caste Zaphiran. Her skin was pale pink, almost white in the moonlight. She wore simple brown clothing that looked like it was made from plant fibers. No armor at all, just soft flesh and fabric. The warrior paused, closing his compound eyes as if trying to block out the memory. But her eyes, he continued, they were not afraid. They were calculating, measuring, like she was looking at us and seeing exactly how to take us apart, piece by piece. Dr. Vexin made careful notes. Fear response analysis was crucial for understanding combat trauma. Most warriors developed terror reactions to specific enemy capabilities or weapons. Kathar seemed fixated on human expressions and behavior patterns. Squad leader Vexthor signaled for her to surrender, Kathar said. He activated his translation device and spoke in basic human language, told her to drop her weapon and submit to Imperial authority. Standard procedure for dealing with primitive resistance. Kathar shifted on the medical bed, his movements becoming more agitated as the memory continued. The female tilted her head to one side, he said, like she was considering his words. Then she made a sound, a short, sharp noise that came from her throat. It took me several seconds to realize she was laughing. Dr. Vexin looked up from her notes with surprise. Laughter in the face of overwhelming force was not typical behavior for any species they had encountered. Most primitives either fled in panic or froze with terror when confronted by Zaphiran warriors. She raised her weapon, Kathar continued, a crude metal tube with a wooden stock. Chemical propellant technology that was centuries behind our plasma systems. The projectiles it fired should have bounced harmlessly off our exoskeletons. The warrior's voice began to tremble as he reached the crucial moment of first contact. The female aimed carefully, he said. She did not spray bullets wildly like most primitives do. She took her time, choosing her target with precision. Then she fired 3 shots in rapid succession. Kathar fell silent for several minutes, his breathing becoming labored. Dr. Vexin waited patiently, knowing that Dr. Vexan stopped writing, her own mandibles clicking with confusion. Joint gaps in Zaphiran exoskeletons were tiny, barely visible even to trained observers. The idea that a primitive projectile weapon could target them with such precision was disturbing. How did she know where to aim? Dr. Vexan asked. Kathar's compound eyes fixed on the ceiling above, his expression distant and haunted. That was the question that would torture us for the entire campaign, he said. She should not have known our anatomy, should not have understood our technology. But she aimed with the precision of someone who had studied us for years. The session continued for another hour, with Kathar recounting the escalating horror of the 3-week campaign. He described how the humans had adapted their tactics daily, learning from each encounter. He told of human soldiers who fought with injuries that should have been fatal, of their pack-bonding behavior that led them to risk everything for captured comrades, of their ability to reverse engineer Zaphiran technology in real time. But as the session drew to a close, something unexpected happened. Dr. Vexan noticed a change in Kathar's stress patterns. They were stabilizing rather than intensifying. Doctor,
Kathar said suddenly, his voice clearer than it had been in months. I need to tell you something else. Something I haven't shared with anyone. Dr. Vexan leaned forward, sensing this was important. After the evacuation, after we returned to Imperial space, Kathar said, I received a communication. Personal channel, encrypted with codes that shouldn't exist outside our military. The warrior's mandibles stopped clicking. For the first time since his treatment began, he seemed calm. It was from her, he said. The human female from that first encounter. Her name was Sarah Chen, a xenobiologist who had been studying our species for 5 years before we arrived. Dr. Vexan felt her own heart skip a beat. She said she had been watching our therapy sessions through channels I don't understand. Kathar continued. She wanted me to know that the campaign wasn't about defeating us, it was about teaching us. Kathar sat up on the medical bed, his posture straightening for the first time in months. The humans had been preparing for our arrival for years, he said. Not just on New Haven, but across dozens of worlds. They knew we would come eventually, and they used our predictable tactics against us. Every victory we thought we had earned was actually a lesson they were teaching us. Dr. Vexan's datapad slipped from her hands as the implications hit her.
Chen explained that humanity had been contacted by other species, races that had suffered under imperial expansion, Kathar said. They had formed an alliance, sharing intelligence about our methods, our weaknesses, our psychology. The battle on New Haven was their final examination. The warrior stood up from the bed, his movements fluid and confident again. She offered me a choice, Kathar said. I could continue to suffer from memories of defeat, or I could help them teach the Empire a better way. Dr. Vexan found her voice. What did you tell her? Kathar smiled, the first genuine expression of peace she had seen from him. I told her I was ready to learn, he said. The nightmares stopped after that. They weren't memories of failure anymore. They were reminders of the day I met my teacher. He walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars with clear eyes. The Empire will send more forces to human space, Kathar said. When they do, I'll be there to meet them. Not as their enemy, but as someone who can help them understand what they're really fighting for. Dr. Vexan stared at her patient, her former patient, as understanding dawned. The humans didn't just defeat us, she said quietly. No, Kathar replied, still gazing at the stars. They recruited us, and now the real lesson begins. Outside the medical bay, the stars continued their ancient dance, but now some of them held worlds where former enemies worked together, learning to build something better than conquest. The Empire would soon discover that their greatest warriors had become their most effective teachers, and the galaxy would never be the same.